Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Ladies and gentlemen, the history of talk radio. Political opinions have been a staple of radio since the early 1920s. Talk radio as a listener participation format has existed since at least the mid-1940s. WMCA New York's Barry Gray was bored with playing music and put a telephone receiver up to his microphone to talk with band leader Woody Herman. This was soon followed by listener call-ins. In 1948, disc jockey Alan Courtney began a call-in program on WGBS Miami. The Alan Courtney Open Phone Forum was a conservative and anti-communist political forum with coverage area over the southeast United States and Cuba. In the 50s, Joe Pine, John Nebel, and Gene Shepard were among the first to explore the medium. In recent years, talk radio has gained popularity with many new formats flourishing, including all sports in 1986 with the birth of WFAN New York. The subject matter for these formats are different, but the structure has remained the same for all these years. You might say talk radio is a 20th century format, until now that is. It's 2014. And radio pioneer and innovator Alex Bennett introduces the Citizen Panel on GabNet, the first revolutionary idea in the format since its inception. The Citizen Panel allows for an open discussion to take place between the host and many listeners all at the same time. Listeners claim that it's addictive, producing stimulating discussions on any topic from politics to movies and entertainment. It's not liberal or conservative. It's open to all opinions and ideas. Log on to gabnet.net to listen and find out how you can participate. Listen to the programs on GabNet and take a step into 21st century talk radio.
Hey everybody, this is Alex Bennett, host of the Ramble, heard here and seen here on GabNet, Tuesday through Fridays, live at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and I got some big news for you. Our program has moved its live video from Facebook Live to YouTube Live. After extensive tests in our GabNet laboratories of at least 10 minutes, our mind was made up and we've come to the conclusion that YouTube is superior not only in video quality, but audio as well. And then there's the ease of watching it. Here's what you do. Simply point your browser to youtube.com/Bolo Bennett /live. That's youtube.com/Bolo Bennett, BOLOBENNETT /live, and you're there. The player is waiting, and you do nothing, and when the show begins, so does the player. Couldn't be simpler. In fact, tag that page as a permanent tab on your browser, and you're ready to go. And if all of this is too vexing for you, well, just go to gabnet.net near showtime, and the player in the middle of the page will start to play when we're on. We're thrilled with the new quality our move has provided, and while you're there, would you do me a favor and please subscribe to our channel? No, I beg you to. Hey, listen to me, I'm groveling, okay? I know, it's pathetic. I'm sorry, I'm debasing myself, and I really shouldn't be. Please.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hello everybody, how are you? Welcome from the East Coast of the United States in New York City, New York. The city's so nice they named it twice. We'll be here until midnight tonight. We're taking your calls and everything like that. But first of all, we got to go out to, let's see, Lake Oswego, Oregon, to talk to an ex. Ladies and gentlemen, that face you see before you is, I always like to kid, an ex-wife. It's not kidding. It's true.
It's true.
It's true. In fact, this Ronnie Bennett, by the way, I was just listening. I put it up online because I thought people might be interested in hearing it. It was an interview that I did at WPLJ, and you were there because you are referenced with Stan Lee.
Oh, I was going to bring that up, that he died this week.
Yeah. And it was one of a couple of interviews we did. It's the only one that I have a copy of. And he reads Spider-Man to the kids out there in the radio
did
audience.
he?
Yeah. And you come up because we mentioned what was the show you were on, To Tell the Truth? Which one was it?
To Tell the Truth.
To Tell the Truth, and he had been on it.
So did we talk about it?
And of course, as the real Stan Lee.
Right.
He said, we watched the show on television. My wife couldn't figure out which one was Stan Lee. And I said, then I talked about the fact that you had been on it as a fake dancer from Old Calcutta. And
a fake nude dancer
fake nude dancer from Old Calcutta. Right. So we
and I got 2 votes.
I know. And then he says to you something like, "Hey, Ronnie," because you obviously were in the studio with us when the interview was done. So, that was a long time ago, and out of the three of us, one is dead. So
one's getting there very quickly.
well, I'm not going to bring it up, but we're all getting there. I mean, I'm getting sick and tired. I can't tell you how sick and tired I am. You better not die on me, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm sick and tired of everybody I know dying.
Yeah, I know it's hard to get old.
As you
get older, that's one of the big things.
Eventually, I mean, what was the story I heard about a guy used to go to his high school reunion every year, and one year he went and he was the only guy there?
I used to get invitations every year, and this year would have been 68, 78, 88, 98, 80, my 60th high school reunion, but nothing came this year.
Really? Because I remember I went to one of yours with you.
That's right. I forgot that. Yeah. Yes, you're right.
And I commented on how interesting it was to be in a room in which all people within a pole, say a center pole, were 6 months difference in age from each other.
Right.
Okay? But
they all look very different ages.
They all look different ages.
Yeah.
That everybody ages differently. And that was my first great lesson in life, that the good Lord isn't good to all of us, And
it was funny that some I recognized and some I didn't know from.
Yeah. I mean, the good Lord isn't good to all of us, and some of us He allows to buy facelifts. So it's. But that was quite an interesting evening that way, But I never went. I went to one of mine, and then it was going to be on a boat up near Petaluma somewhere along the river there, something. Anyway, I drive up to the boat and I see the people getting on. It's like my 30th or 40th, right? I think it's my 40th. And these people are all walking onto it, and I'm looking at them, and I'm going, they're too old to be my classmates.
Did you bring a mirror?
Well, wait a minute. So I freaked out and turned around and went home.
Oh, you didn't go at all?
I didn't go at all. I told the story on the air about how I just couldn't bring myself, because number one.
You went to Drake High School?
Yeah. If it weren't on a boat, I might have done it. But on a boat, you're stuck with these people for 2 hours.
That's right.
You can't go anywhere. You can't jump off the boat or whatever. So I made a conscious decision. I don't want to have to deal with these people.
Jeez, Alex, give me a break.
I'm not as old as they are.
Yeah. You didn't bring a mirror.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at them made me suddenly realize that, I better go look at the mirror. Yeah. But, and I went to one 10 years earlier. This was very funny. And I went, of course, Bennett Schwarzman, and I'm going to, it was at a ranch somewhere, and I went, and it was, again, very interesting, because it was interesting to see how people had aged and so on. And
is that why we go to reunions, do you think? Because we want to see if somebody aged better or worse than we did?
Well, actually, we want to hope that they all aged worse than we did, okay? And I went to this thing, and I'm talking with somebody, one of my classmates, Ben, and I'm Ben Schwarzman's got it on the thing on my chest, you know. And all of a sudden, she looks at me and goes, "You're Alex Bennett." And I said,
so she'd been listening to you on the radio, but didn't know that you were a classmate until then, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I was found out.
I see. I've got a story for you, a very interesting story.
Okay.
And toward the end, it involves you.
As most things do, if they're good stories.
Yeah, give me. Jesus, Alan. Well, have you ever sent away for your DNA?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't interested. I'm just not interested. Look at my face. You know where I came from, you know? And I don't have any interest.
How do we know by your face where you came from?
Europe?
Well, I mean, it's got to be.
It's Africa? Come on.
No, it's not Africa, but neither am I.
So I just wasn't very interested, at least not at $99. But about a year ago, all these places were having a sale for $59 or $69, and so I thought it was maybe worth that much.
Yeah.
And I signed up at one of them. Didn't read any of the information, you know, about privacy or anything like that. I just filled out the form and gave them my PayPal account or a credit card or something, and let it go. And about a month later, I get an email via the website from another person who's a member of the website that says, apparently you and I are closely related. 50%. Now, since my father is dead, that could only be a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you may or may not remember that I had a baby.
Yeah. Very early on. Yeah.
21, 22.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had the baby, and when it was adopted after he was born, I had arranged that I would sign the papers without knowing the name. Well, somebody screwed up at the hospital, and the name was splashed. The parent's name was splashed all over the place. So that's not something you forget, right? So the person who signed that email had that last name, so I knew it wasn't a mistake or whatever else it might be. And so there you are, 55 years later. And so, you know,
well, wait a minute. Now, this person was what in relationship to you?
Son.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, did I leave out the important part?
Either that or I wasn't paying attention, but I think, yeah. So this reader of yours is your son?
Not a reader. It came from the website.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
The DNA website.
I get those things, too, where they send you and they say, you know, the only one they got right so far was my cousin, who is my cousin.
They keep telling me fifth cousins. I don't really care, you know, about
right. I'm not having a family reunion anytime soon.
Right. So, you know, so I didn't know quite what to say, but I answered in some manner. And we exchanged a few emails, and he had read my website. And I've got a whole timeline with pictures and stories that I told. Right. So he found out a lot about my family, and we exchanged some of that information. And then that started early this year. And then come spring, if you remember, over most of the spring, I had 2 surgeries. I was in the hospital twice for a week each, and recovery afterwards for an internal bleed that was plaguing me. And I just let it go, partially too because I was uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do about this. And
yeah, I don't know what I would do. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's no rule book, you know?
Yeah.
And and the only ones they ever show you on YouTube are people that have been trying to find each other for years and years and years.
Well, you know, I had a son. I believe I had a son. At least it was asserted that I had a child that was given up for adoption, and I found out it was a son because I could read upside down, and I saw it on the doctor's desk. I often wondered what happened to that son. I often wondered whether I should go looking for that son. And then I decided, no, if he wants to find me, that's what I should do. Because I don't want to suddenly jump into his life and say, here I am, Dad. And he goes, I was adopted, or some other traumatic thing like that.
I have very strong feelings that giving birth, or fathering, if you will, a child has nothing to do with being a parent. You have to take care of this kid and love them day in and day out, no matter what they are, however much they drive you crazy. That makes you a parent.
Right.
And so I think you're right about that. But in my case, the son did come here. So I just kind of dropped out of our communication for a long time. And he's obviously been reading the blog all along, so that when I announced this new cancer diagnosis about 2 weeks ago, I guess it was 3 weeks ago, I got an email from him again. And so we've spoken on the phone now twice at great length, 2 hours. And I really like him.
Oh, God, yeah.
And we're, there's a lot of similarities. Some that is just crazy. You wouldn't believe they could be. We both are big fans of Gore Vidal. We've both read everything Gore Vidal ever wrote. Mm-hmm. We're both fans of time travel novels. Mm-hmm. There's what I don't know how you even talk about this very well, but in talking with him on the phone, I sense that our mindsets are similar, that we think about things in a conversation in a similar way, mm-hmm. and we make similar kinds of connections when we're talking. And after the first couple of hours that we spoke, for the next 2 or 3 days, I just felt such a warmth. I can't say I feel motherly. I'm not a mother.
No,
I never did that.
I know what you're probably talking about. Because I think I would have that same feeling if I finally met up with my son.
Well, I don't know that I would if I didn't like him.
Well, I've made certain determinations about mine, and judging by certain things and so on, I have determined that he's Howard Stern. So...
Is Howard Stern young enough to be your kid?
Well, I had the kid when I was 18, 19. So,
God, we were stupid, weren't we, about where babies come from?
So, that would be 60 years old. He could be 60 years old. Howard's a little older than that, but I know it's not Howard. But I often wondered what, my kid would be an old man by now, okay?
Well, that's a funny thing, is that Tom, his name is Tom Wark, and by the way, he lives in the Napa Valley. Mm-hmm. He is a wine expert.
Yeah.
He runs a blog for the wine industry.
How old is he?
55.
55, yeah.
And that's what I wanted to say, that's pretty funny. Because if I read about John Smith in the paper 55, that I don't really think it exactly, but sort of in the back of my head, he's getting old. And so it's really weird to have a kid who's 55. That's getting...
Let me ask you a couple of questions about this, though. Because I knew you after you had that kid, and you always talked about it. It was something that was weighing heavily on you.
Really? I don't remember that.
It was enough that you considered it a real blip in your life, and
kind of.
So I knew it, and we'd talked about it on several occasions, and you seemed, I don't know what I felt you seemed. It concerned you, okay?
Well,
yeah. But anyway, so I kind of have a vested interest in this story.
You even have a bigger vested interest. I haven't told you yet.
Oh, is there a surprise ending to this?
Well, it's not an ending. It's just a little piece of information.
Oh, okay. Well, let me finish first. Let me ask you a couple of questions first before we lead to that. We may as well not ruin the big payoff here.
Oh, it's not big, but it's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Did you find out who raised him and things like that?
Yes, and I knew that when the doctor who took care of me during that, and once I decided that the baby would be adopted, they gave me 2 or 3 choices of some people who wanted to adopt a baby. And I said, don't tell me their names, but they gave me their particulars, what their ages were, where they were from, what they did for a living, that sort of thing, whether there were other children adopted or otherwise. And however those decisions were made, I could have made the choice. I could say no, and I could say yes. And so the family that took him, I didn't know their name at that time, and I had made arrangements with whoever you talked to back then, that when I had to sign the papers, the legal papers for him to be adopted when I was in the hospital, that they would not fill in the name. I didn't want to know the name.
Yeah.
I was very young, and I didn't know if knowing the name or anything like that would make me change my mind. And these people had paid for all my medical expenses and all of that, and had updates on my condition. And I didn't think it was fair for them to go through all that and me to change my mind at the last minute.
Right.
So I had arranged for that. They brought me the papers in the hospital. And they're right there on the papers.
Yeah, the names
big name. And it's not something you forget.
Right.
So if I had any question when I got that first email from him, that if it was real or not, which, it's DNA, probably not it's probably real. The name was right there. I knew it was the same name, so it wasn't a mistake.
Wow.
Wow. So, another question you had?
Well, no, that was basically the question, And how did he feel all these years about the fact that he was adopted? Did he just kind of, did that affect him at all, or? He
loves his family.
Yeah.
They were really good parents.
Yeah.
And he had a wonderful upbringing. He's very happy. And that means, I feel good about that because I made the choice,
Yeah. Yeah.
He had a family.
Yeah.
So here's just, we were exchanging information. He'd found out a lot of information about me on the website and my family, which, as you know, is pretty small, particularly compared to yours and all your relatives.
Yeah.
But then he was telling me more about himself. And he grew up, terribly important to him apparently, listening to you when you were in San Francisco.
Oh, jeez, almighty.
He was a big fan.
Oh, my fucking God.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. Let's see, how many years ago is that? That was 19. He had to listen to me anywhere between 1980 and 1997.
He was born in 1963.
He was born in 1963. So, he would have to have been kind of an adult, would I say? 63.
When did you start in San Francisco?
80.
80. So he would have been 16, 17 when he started.
Yeah,
if he started at the beginning.
Then he would start becoming an adult and probably kept listening to me and was a fan, Yeah.
Isn't that
Son
nice?
of a bitch. Well, and he never associated anything with anything, right?
No, had no reason to.
Did he ever make any attempt to find you in his lifetime before this?
I don't. I think he would have mentioned it by now.
Yeah.
If he had. Mm-hmm. He was obviously interested in his background by signing up with the DNA site.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the important things about this, besides the curiosity and interest in situations similar to mine and his, is medical information as important.
Yeah.
And if adopted, you have no idea what your medical background, your family's medical background is.
Right.
So, we exchanged a little of that. The important thing is everybody in my family dies of cancer. So,
Hey, I got good news for you, kid. You're going to love your DNA report.
So, anyway, that's my big story this week. And we're going to be talking some more. And the thing is, I really like him. I feel and it's only
Did you
phone
tell him if
calls.
he's really good, he can meet Alex?
Pardon me?
Did you tell him if he's really good, you'll introduce him to Alex?
But what's really nice is that I don't feel motherly at all. I can't find a motherly bone in my body for anybody, but I feel a connection of some kind.
Well, no, you're not going to feel motherly because you never were a mother to this person, okay?
Or anybody else.
But because you have a certain commonality, you're going to feel an affinity towards this person. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's just wonderful. I mean, if you were to put a period on your life, this completes something.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. I think maybe you're right.
It really completes a certain question mark you had in your life. And it was probably always lingering there. I know my kid still lingers with me every now and then, and as I said, at one point I was going to hire a detective to go find him. And then I said,
you don't have a name. See, I knew a name.
I don't have a name, but, I knew a detective who said he could do it. He could figure it out. And then I decided not to do it. I decided that it was his job to find me, not my job to find him. And I'm sure if you've ever had that pang, you probably felt exactly the same thing, that why jump into somebody's life when you've never been a part of it,
More than that, I never thought much about tracking him down, but if I did on rare occasions, it's more than that. And what in the world would I say?
Are his parents still alive, by the way?
No.
No. Oh, okay. Because I would wonder how they would react to him talking to you,
But I had no idea what I would say. Tom made it very easy.
Yeah.
For me when we first spoke on the phone and when we email. And that opening line of, apparently you and I are closely related. No shit. I mean, that made me laugh so much. I mean, I had to write back.
Is he married? Does he have a family?
He is married for the third time, and he has a 4-year-old son.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
And apparently very happily married, and great little kid.
It's very funny, but I actually met up or had contact with the woman who had my kid. She wrote me many years after, when I was working on the air in San Francisco. And she said, this is Sandy, that was her name. And you remember when we used to hang out, Phil? And she named all the people we used to hang out with. But she never mentioned that she had a baby by me. And any of the letters that we communicated back and forth by, I don't know if it was email in those days. I think, it could have been email.
Well, that wasn't all that long ago then.
Well, it was long enough ago that I think email was a pretty new thing. I'm trying to figure out how we were communicating. We weren't. Did we talk on the phone? I don't remember that. But anyway, I kept trying to drag out of her facts about, for her to say, yeah, and then I remember we had the kid. But she never said that. And at one point, I think in a letter I wrote her, I said, well, you were a very big influence in my life. And she writes back and she says, I don't know how. So I always wonder, what was that all about? It was definitely her because she could name people we knew. Mm-hmm. But did she block it out? And then she started writing about one son she had who was trouble to her, that he had all kinds of he was always very depressed and so on. And I'm thinking, that's my kid. She didn't give it up. And I'm wondering, to this day, finally I stopped dealing with her because I couldn't get her to say anything about, I didn't want to just come out and say, remember you had a kid by me? In case maybe she was...
But you didn't know at the time? She didn't say anything at the time?
No, she never, ever said anything about that. But then she would talk about one of her kids, her oldest kid, who approximately fit within that window of when my kid was being born. Like she hadn't given the kid up and at the last minute and raised it, and the kid turned out to be depressed. Really, and the way she described his depression and everything, I said, that's my kid. He's fucked up just like me.
I don't think of you as depressed ever.
Oh, I'm
worried, hypochondriac, but that isn't depression.
Oh, I'm depressed all the time too. Yeah, nothing's ever good enough.
So there you are.
I've been a big failure in life according to my way of thinking. And everybody else goes, "Are you kidding?" But then again, I remember a story about Bing Crosby. And somebody talked to him once about the fact that he was the greatest singer in the world. And he says, I don't know why anybody listens to me singing. I can't understand it. He never thought of himself as being that big or that important. But why anybody would want to listen to him sing? And I'm thinking...
Fortunately, they did for his career.
I can understand that because I think you don't totally understand your impact yourself. Unless you have a complete ego like Trump, and then you think you overestimate your impact. But anyway, wow, that is a great story. That is just terrific. And with that, yes. I guess we should bring this to an end. But boy, what a, as I say, at this point in your life, that's a great resolution to have.
A button on it.
A button, yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. Are you going to meet up with him?
And the best thing is he's a really nice guy, and I really like him.
Well, you did a good job of raising him. Anyway.
Or I found him a couple of good parents.
Yeah, you found him a couple of good parents. Are you going to see him?
I don't know. It hasn't come up.
It hasn't come up.
No.
Does he know your current situation?
Sure. He's been reading the blog.
God,
he knows.
But it's great for him, too.
Yeah.
God, I'm happy for both of you. That's good news.
Yes.
That's really good news. Hey, yes. Ronnie, let's do it again.
See you next time.
See you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, ex-wives keep cropping up. Ronnie Bennett.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GABNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. We're frozen. What do you know? This has been happening lately. Hold on a second, folks, because I got to fix this. So let me go back to that, and I'll go ahead and fix this, okay? It'll take me just a second. I have no idea why that happens lately. But it happens, so, what the hell. There we go. Are we okay now? Yeah, okay, we're going to be okay. All right, here we go. Boom, not frozen anymore. Ah, God. It's been one technical problem after another, okay? For instance, a good example was last night, I'm very tired tonight. And part of the reason I'm tired is because I had a problem with my Roku channel, the TV version of the Roku channel, all right? It always happens. These things always happen at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm ready to go to sleep. So I'd already taken 2 of my pills for the numbness of my feet, which make me drowsy. And all of a sudden, I'm trying to solve this problem, which is just terrible because certain things aren't showing up. And it's because I erased them all on the server, and I'm just going crazy. And finally, I fix it. And about 3 o'clock, it's time to go to bed. I put my head on the pillow, and I can't go to sleep. So I then take something I haven't done in the longest time. I take a Xanax to put me to sleep, and that kind of doesn't do it. But then finally, I go to sleep, and now I wake up, and I've got the hangover for not only the gabapentin, but I have the hangover from the Xanax. So what you're seeing tonight now is a guy who can't even remember his own name. That's how bad things are. So anyway, our lines are open, and it's a fill-free night, which is good, because it gives a lot of you a chance to get a word in edgewise. So if you would, give me a call, and we'll talk with you. I thought that was a fascinating discussion with Ronnie about finding her son. She, of course, as you know, is at the terminal end of her life. And it is so wonderful to know that one of these little things unresolved, has been resolved in finding her child, the child she gave up for adoption when I met her. She said she was 22 at the time, I guess. And right after that, I had met her, and she, I remember her telling me the story, but as a form of admission. I've got something to tell you. Because in those days, having a kid when you weren't married was a big fucking deal, a very big deal. And in her case, I know how it affected her. I know how it affected me, okay, when it happened to me. And it's something that follows you really for the rest of your life. A time doesn't go by, I'd say, a couple of months or a year or something, that I don't suddenly wonder, where is that kid of mine? My kid would be, what, about 60, I guess? 60 years old. So that's, I don't even know if he's still alive. It's one of those kind of things. Anyway, here's Tom Yamaguchi. He's the first guy to call tonight. Congratulations, you win the prize. I don't know what, but see, you have the General Magic T-shirt on.
I do have the General Magic T-shirt.
Mm.
Haven't seen the documentary yet, but hope to sometime.
What documentary?
Les, I told you they made a documentary about the company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that hasn't been officially released. I guess it's been
what is
different circuits.
What is the premise of it? Because I would think the premise of it would be that was one of the first PDAs I ever remember happening. They gave me one, as a matter of fact, and I used it for quite a while. But because you didn't have the internet and a lot of other things, it didn't work quite as the PDAs do today.
Yeah.
PDA, by the way, as the term means, personal desktop or personal
digital assistant,
right? And I think it preceded the Newton, didn't it?
I'm trying to think. Maybe not. Maybe the Newton came out first, but this had wireless connectivity.
Right.
It did connect to the internet.
Yeah.
But it was just, too soon. It was just the company just went out of business. So it's just talking about the rise and fall of this company that, was just on the verge of being great, but never made it.
Well, I mean, there are quite a few companies. Hi there, guys. We've been joined by Brian.
Hello.
We've been joined by Jeff.
Hello.
There are quite a few companies that I was associated with that didn't last very long. Hooked, which was a online service. It was,
they took over the Well.
Huh?
What was it called again?
The Well. God, that name. I never joined the Well. But the Well, explain the Well, because the Well was kind of...
The Well stood for the Whole Earth Electronic Link.
Right.
And it was a bulletin board system that was set up by the Whole Earth Catalog people.
Well, actually, wasn't it Whole Earth Access? The stores that set it up?
No, the stores had nothing to do
okay.
with Whole Earth Catalog. They just ripped off the name.
No, they didn't. There was some association there, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
It was not. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Whole Earth Catalog, they started getting into computer communications and
so they came up with the Well, which was basically, it was like a bulletin board more than it was anything else. See,
and you had moderators, you had different chat rooms, you had different discussions.
Right.
It was all Unix based.
Now, did it have email too?
Yes, you had email. You got I had an email account for the Well.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but that in and of itself seems like an endangered species, the chat room.
Why?
I don't see very many of them anymore.
What do you mean? There's one running right now while we do this show.
Yeah, well, that's connected. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, chat rooms.
Skype.
Chat rooms are still quite a bit around. Also, forums are out there, which is kind of a form of chat room.
I remember like AOL. I'm thinking like the AOL days and
Right.
chats and shit like that.
AOL was they went out of business because, well, they are still in business, but they
They're in business.
They're a shell of their former self.
they're a shell of what they were because they were the last ones to go online. I mean, for the longest time you went to AOL and you've got mail, and you lived within this universe, but you could never get out of it because there wasn't an on-ramp to the internet. And they finally, and they got into it late, finally put an on-ramp to the internet, and it was very sloppy and very terrible. But chat rooms are still, I mean, people chat on this thing like, sometimes they get just like Chatty Cathy. They don't shut up,
Okay. I guess I'm looking in the wrong directions then.
Yeah. You're not with it, Brian. Yeah. You're not hep to the times. Hello there, Mr. Alfano.
Hello. What's going on tonight? How's everybody?
Nothing much is going on tonight. I was just talking about the fact that I don't know what happens, but everything seems to go wrong technically about 2:00 in the morning.
That's because nothing good happens after midnight.
And then you try to solve it.
Oh, I don't Uber during that time.
And then once you solve it, you want to go to bed, but you can't go to bed because you're still buzzing from having solved this problem. So I had took 2 gabapentin before this thing hit, and then I had to stay awake trying to solve it. And then when I tried to go to bed, I had to take a Xanax to put me to sleep on top of the gabapentin. So today I don't even know who I am. But and then just before I came on here, all of a sudden I'm trying to send email out, and it won't send email out on my Gabnet account. And I can't figure out why. It won't do it. Finally, I just rebooted my mail system, and everything's fine now.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Reboot fixes 99% of all problems.
Yeah,
that's why I'm afraid of electric cars, because when you're going down the street at 70, it's hard to reboot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, I noticed I didn't get a email notification that when you were going on the air. So I went to YouTube anyway, but I didn't get every night I get an email when you go on, and I just click on the link, and but I didn't receive it tonight.
It's probably some problem with YouTube tonight. Who knows? I mean, we're going out there, so I'm not.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it just surprised me. I didn't, because that's the reason to subscribe. Is because if you're a subscriber, which you got 702 people now. If you're a subscriber, you'll get an email notification when you're on the air.
Yeah, well, either that, or some people will figure I will get annoyed by getting an email notification whenever he's on the air. But no, it does. Usually, it says something, but don't rely on that either. Don't rely on anything. Everything associated with me in the last 24 hours broke. Do you ever have those days, by the way, Rob, where somehow you say, finally, I'm not going to touch anything because anything I touch breaks?
Absolutely.
It's like you have some negative energy in your body.
And that's especially in my last career, when I was involved and responsible for systems that thousands of people used.
Yeah.
When you have one of those days and you're like, I'm just not going to touch anything here.
Right. Forget it. Not touching it.
All things that you planned on doing, even the simplest things, you go, you know what? I'll wait till tomorrow.
Well, guys, and Rob, you'll especially enjoy this analogy. It's like what Tony Soprano said in the first season. I'm like King Midas in reverse. Everything I touch turns to shit.
Yeah, well, it's just that there's some kind of negative energy that you get or something. I don't know, and that is, so you touch something and it breaks. So I had this thing last night and it was broken, and then today with the email it was broken, and I can't think. There were a couple of other things that I had to go around fixing. So Hello there, Kevin. Been joined by Kevin too. Boy, it's a nice crowd already we got here.
Good evening.
Yes, yes, people we like. Hold on a second. I wanna put up my the logo here so that people can see who we are. Okay, there we go. Yeah. See, when there are enough people and there's enough space in the picture, I can then put the logo up. So.
Well, I don't know about that, Alex. I've been making some deep, divisive non-inroads in the Facebook left-wing community. So,
what do you mean by that?
I'm not like rah-rah, Shiskumbago, Hillary, corporatist Democrat bullshit, and that seems to rub a lot of left-wingers en masse the wrong way.
Well, I got to tell you something about left-wingers for a second, okay? They're not left-wingers. They're liberals. Liberals have a certain propensity towards looking to be politically correct all the time.
Yeah.
And what I found is when I was on Sirius, I had serious reservations about Obama. I mean, I thought there were things he was doing badly. And I felt that, and I had said it many times, that we had elected an amateur. But he, in all deference to him,
what we have now,
as the years went on, he became more professional. But in the beginning, I was very critical of him. Sirius is getting letters. How can you have this guy on Sirius Left? He's no liberal. No, I'm no liberal. I'm a leftist, you fuck. They couldn't. They don't have. Liberals do not have a sense of humor. Am I right about this, Rob?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a liberal. I'm not even sure where I fit in on the spectrum because there are certain things that I just have a big problem with. I don't like any of the political correctness, quite frankly. I think it's over. It's too much.
Another thing,
you can't be a comedian. I wouldn't want to be a comedian anymore.
Oh, and now I wouldn't consider my idea of gun control is here's your license. Are you stable enough to own? Are you stable enough to own an Uzi? I mean, but you have to have insurance to carry that Uzi.
Yeah,
you have to pay more.
Well, that's one thing I've often said about guns. I think that everybody who owns a gun should have to have insurance.
Yeah, but people on the left, on the extreme left, they're ban it outright, ban it outright. Like Archer says in that show Archer, that animated show Archer on FX, in my meme that I created. Do you want 4 more years of Trump? Because this is how you get 4 more years of Trump.
How?
By saying, ban guns, take it out of their hands, and you made a dirty joke.
Something though. Something. I think with all the murders that have taken place in this country, mass murders, 320 of them since the first of the year in murders that caused the death of 4 or more people in each event. Okay, 320. I think America's getting a little sick of guns.
I don't.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so at all. That's the wacky part.
How can the average American feel the fact that he sends his kid to what used to be the safest place for them to go, their school, and it's no longer a safe place any longer?
Because they don't look at it as the guns being the problem. That they think of it as a mental health issue, and it's not the guns. And if you take the guns away, all you're doing is taking away your self-defense.
Well, it's
and
obvious.
Only the bad guys will have the guns.
It's
that's why they don't. They're not.
Well, I look at the term well-regulated militia, and I define a militia. It could be a militia of one person, but if that one person is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, the government needs to step in and say, you can't have that. You can't have this.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Let you have a knife.
The one thing we should stop is what do you call it? The people who are prosecuting crimes, murders, from being able to say, Well, this person was perfectly sane and not allowing insanity defenses, because what you're saying is somebody who kills another human being is sane?
Well, they were sane when they got the gun legally, and what happens after a while.
No, but
you're never going to rip guns out of people's hands. You know why?
It's not going to be a utopia.
But they say, somebody uses an insanity defense, and immediately the prosecution is going, "Oh no, he's perfectly sane." No, he killed somebody. That's an act of insanity.
Well, but you could have momentary insanity. But the whole thing about guns, it's a very romantic thing in this country. It's how people, everybody I know who's a gun person has guns from their young childhood, and it's something they bonded with their father on. And they are not giving up those guns.
Yeah, to me, gun control
that's a perpetuating thing. It's a perpetuating thing. I never thought America had a love affair with cars.
Okay, but wait a minute.
Let's
pull this back just a few.
No, but I'm saying that's changing.
Let's pull this back a few inches. I understand what you're saying about the kid whose father took him hunting when they were younger.
Yes.
And it was a bonding experience for he and Dad. I understand that, and we're talking about guns now. I hate to use the word sport, because it's not very sporting for the animal. But using it for sport. And then those people who want a gun because they think it protects them. There's a real difference between the two.
Those are both things that are somewhat similar most times. Sometimes they work together. What are you going to do?
It seems that most people I know, and I have lots of family and friends who carry guns. They love them, and they also believe that they are protection.
How can you love something that's a cold piece of steel? I mean, I can think of nothing more loving than a gun.
I can think of a three-word answer to your question, Alex.
I bet one
of reference. And you have a different frame of reference than a lot of Americans.
Yes, Jeff.
I don't think there's many people who are interested in guns and violence.
I agree with you. They're not interested in the violence part, but you're not going to get the guns away from them.
But
and the NRA feeds on that.
Another, in the United States, you not only can have guns, it's almost recommended.
Oh, the NRA, God, Rob, don't get me started on the NRA.
I used to say this joke was, I said, when I went to Texas the first time in my car and I drove to Texas, we stopped at the Texas line and the police said, "Do you have a gun?" I said, "No." They said, "Well, we'll give you one."
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, why not?
In Texas, it was okay to carry a sidearm as long as it was a sidearm, as long as it was holstered outside you. In other words, you didn't have it hidden in your jacket. You could wear it on your hip. It was fine. They also had another law. This law was the best law of all when I was in Texas. It was against the law to carry a gun in your car. Now, that seems logical, doesn't it? But there was an exception. Except if you're transporting it from one place to another.
Well, gee.
That was the caveat. Yeah, well, I was taking it home. I was taking it to work. I was taking it to McDonald's. I mean, ridiculous.
I was taking it to my daughter's recital. Yeah.
And when under your seat, but it had to be hanging in the gun rack in the window.
I mean, I wish Scott were here tonight because he'd agree with me when I say that when I was living in Houston, Monday morning, the news that was coming in like crazy was how many people got killed in bars and so on over the weekend. And we just didn't even report them anymore because there were too many of them and it was too common. That was a gun-toting state, man. Yes, first Brian and then Jeff.
Okay. I'll use your words again, like you said to Rob. Let's bring this back a few inches again, and I'll say that it's the kiss of death for the Democratic Party in large to say that I'm for gun prohibition rather than gun control, the way I'm defining it, with the parameters I'm defining it with.
Right. I agree with you.
Right.
It's the kiss of death for them.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Because rational people who, might vote a Democratic way because of health care, because of if you try to take their guns, they're going to vote on the one issue.
But I'm against the National Rifle Association for the same reasons why people like in history's past, people like Martin Luther were against organized religion, or more specifically the Catholic Church in name. Yeah, I have some of the same principles, some of the same beliefs of personal Second Amendment rights and ownership, but the NRA is just too wackadoodle.
Yeah,
as an entity.
Well, I tell you, we have one person in this crowd here who, in fact, is, I guess the overall umbrella term would be Quaker.
You want to go to Jeff first, right?
Oh yeah, Jeff.
Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I forgot what it was at this point.
Yeah, we got to start taking notes from this shit.
I should always go to you first because as an older person, I understand how fast that thought can be fleeting.
So you see in those debate programs, they're always writing notes down when their opponents are.
Now I remember. When I was in high school, we had the school that we went to was a technical school in New York City, and we had a gun club in high school.
Wow!
And guys would bring they weren't pistols, but
you won't see that anymore.
No, can you imagine this?
Fuck no!
And you'd bring your gun on the train.
Wow.
Okay, and and you'd bring it there, and I don't know what the hell they did with them. They shot him or something. Who knows?
We didn't have a gun club. I was trying to think if we had a gun club in high school. No, we didn't. We had a camera club, and you could shoot with those. I don't. Kevin, were you brought up in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a gun club at your school? I don't think we had. We didn't have gun clubs in California.
No, but there really weren't any rules about not bringing guns then.
But then again, we didn't.
There wasn't a real deal then.
But then again, we didn't have 4-H clubs either.
No.
Yeah. What is that, Brian?
I'm just for argument's sake. That's my driver's license. That's my PA driver's license. It's also a CDL. It's a Class A CDL, and with endorsements. And I'm saying a similar argument should be made for that kind of template to be carried over into gun regulation.
Yeah, but you see, they won't go for that because what they think is that they don't want gun registration
at all. They don't want any control, and that's just too extreme.
And that's relatively new for the NRA because they used to be for sensible guidelines and rules.
They were much
just
more
like a lot of those religious organizations used to abstain from making political commentary on the TV. Rob. But,
Trump made that possible.
I thought Reagan did.
Trump,
Falwell and Pat Robertson and whatnot coming on. And
a couple of months after he was elected,
Nixon, Southern Strategy.
Well, maybe, but I know that Trump had some sort of he had all the religious people in the Rose Garden, and he made some sort of declaration about
steroidal boost. I'll give you that.
He gave them some sort of recommendation about allowing them to either speak out politically or something like that.
Tom.
Well, what Trump did, this was actually back to the campaign. He gathered these, I won't even call them evangelists, these religious writers, and promised them that he would get rid of what the so-called Johnson Amendment.
There you go.
And the Johnson Amendment was when Lyndon Johnson was a senator. He had a rule put in that religious organizations could take positions on. They couldn't take partisan political positions, so they lose their nonprofit status. And he promised them that he would change that. That they could. So far, he has to change the law. He's been able to do that. He can't get anything through Congress outside of the tax cut. But
He had that. He had them all in the after he became president. He had them all in the Rose Garden.
Yeah, even before. That's been his. That's his continual promise to them.
Oh, so
and that's why they supported him all along because he's giving them the goodies, or he's promising the goodies they want. They would just love to take, like these mega churches, take, all their money and start pumping it into political campaigns. They would just love to do that, and still this money would just continue to be tax free.
By the way, we've been joined by. Are you there, Vernon?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, you don't have your camera on. Or...
No, I'm calling in on the phone because I brought my laptop up to bed and I can't get the laptop Skype to work, so I figured I'd just call in.
All right, that's fine. Jump in anytime you want to. Just yell out Vernon, and then we'll know you need to talk. That'll be your way of raising your hand. But you're a Quaker, right? Basically, that's the overall term.
Yeah, I left the Catholic Church, in my late teens, early 20s. And first got involved with Quakers with my older brother. This was during the Vietnam War. And then sort of drifted away. And then when I turned 40 and came out and was going through a lot of issues, I decided to get back into it again. So since 1990, I've been very, very involved and really satisfied with my participation in that.
Yeah, are they called Quakers or are they called what's the?
Well, that's the actual name of the religion is the Society of Friends, the Religious Society of Friends.
Oh, okay.
It got the name Quakers is because, when people were, moved to speak, they would get all shaky and so actually it was come up as a derisive term.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Quakers. And then the Quaker says, okay, yeah, we're Quakers.
Where did you live when you first got interested in being a Quaker?
San Diego. Which is funny because I grew up in South Jersey, right near Philadelphia, and I grew up in the middle Quaker country, and never got involved until we moved 3,000 miles away.
Well, I'm a guy who's very much against guns, and yet I was in the military, and we have to go through gun training, as you know, in the military, and I was designated a sharpshooter because I was so good at it. But after that, I never touched a gun. I had never had a reason to. Yes.
Hey, Tom, did you know that Daniel Boone's family were Quakers?
I think so. Yeah, actually, interesting, Annie Oakley. Did you know Annie Oakley was a Quaker?
No.
Yes.
I knew neither were Quakers. I knew Nixon was a Quaker, but I didn't know.
The reason I know Daniel Boone's family is a Quaker is because my fifth great-grandmother was Daniel Boone's older sister.
Uh-huh.
Really?
So that they're related to Pat Boone.
I don't know about that.
Boone family, yes.
Is it the same? Is it the same Boone family?
Yep, they're related.
Wow. Well, anyway, be that as it may.
Being the old soul of music as I am, I don't find all of his music that bad. Like Moody River, for example.
Did you hear the big news today? Well, what big news? There's always big news. If you listen to
Trump, there's everything.
If you watch
the Melania has become president?
No, if you watch if you watch any of the news networks, they all every minute of them have breaking news. Do you ever notice that? It always says breaking news.
I thought you were going to go with
alert now.
I just wonder if there's ever real breaking news. How we're ever going to know?
Yeah. I noticed that lately.
But here's some breaking news for you. In a what could we call it? A move of unanimity. I find this very hard to believe, but as you know, CNN is filing a lawsuit against the White House for Jim Acosta's press credentials being withdrawn. And so they've been joined by other people, including Fox News.
You sure?
Fox News has joined the suit against
Well,
Trump.
They're worried that a Democratic president might try something like that.
That's right. That's a good thought. But do you think maybe this is kind of the beginning of the end of that love affair between Fox and Trump?
I think that's happening. It's subtle, but it is happening.
I think it is happening too.
The brass sides with them, but on air, you still got Sean Hannity. You still got all the regular guys.
You also have Shepard Smith.
Yeah, these guys are all still coming out, against Acosta. It's the brass. It's the Fox business that's coming out. The management that's coming out in favor of CNN on this.
Well, as long as we're mentioning Sean Hannity and the like, a new poll was taken by Hollywood Reporter about how much viewers trust TV news anchors. Who do you think they give the highest marks for the most trusted man in television? It's 32%.
Wow, that's so low.
Well, but who?
Who?
Al
Roker. I mean, really.
He's a weatherman. Nobody trusts
I know.
him.
That's what I mean,
Yeah, but he's a weatherman, and so people would say Al Roker. Yeah, no, if you remember, the most trusted newsman in television at one time was Walter Cronkite. Everybody trusted Uncle Walter, right?
That's right.
But 32% went to, are you ready for this, Lester Holt.
Yeah,
I can't think of bigger taffy on television.
That's probably why.
Because he's unpolitical.
Yeah, that's why.
And at the end of every story, he has some kind of like supercilious comment. I always joke to girlfriend, I wonder what he's going to say about this. Some sweet story at the end of the news, because they always run taffy for 3 minutes at the end of the news. And then he comes back and goes, and our hearts go out to them, or something like that. He's always got a comment. Just shut the fuck up and say good night, you motherfucker.
I never listened to that.
And you watch Lester Holt, and it's like he stuck his tongue up your ass trying to get you to watch.
Their goal today probably is just exactly that on the network news. It's only 30 minutes. They don't have time for the opinions and the pundits. So I would bet their goal is to try to stay as mainstream as possible and not piss anybody off.
They don't tip their hat as to who, or their hand, as to who they would politically align themselves with. I don't know if Lester Holt is a right-winger or a left-winger.
Right, absolutely. It's the way news used to be.
And you really can't.
It's non-news.
You can't tell whether any of those other guys. Well, because they've got the most important thing about those newscasts is to sell pills. Because most of the advertising on them is nothing but pills. So you know who's watching the fucking things? Me.
I guarantee you one thing. I guarantee you that if Lester Holt ever tried to stick his tongue up my ass, he'd have a very shitty aftertaste.
Okay, let's move along here on this upscale discussion that we're having here.
Waiting for that today.
He was followed by, are you ready for this? Hold on to your pants. Anderson Cooper.
I was going to say Anderson Cooper is number one.
He has 29%, indicating a lot of trust, and 27% say some, placing Cooper well ahead of his cable competition. ABC's David Muir, he's the only one left of the three, and Robin Roberts are also fared well, both scoring 28 in the a lot category. Now, they also found out the 10 least trusted television news personalities. Mm-hmm. Who do you think is number one?
Sean Hannity.
You got it.
Yeah.
Who do you think is number two?
Who's left? They got rid of Glenn Beck.
Oh, wait a minute. You're thinking you're
Rachel Maddow.
Number two is Rachel Maddow. Yeah.
Rachel Maddow.
As least trusted.
Interesting.
And now followed by Don Lemon, and finally in fourth place Mika Brzezinski. So yeah, Rachel Maddow second most
You know
untrusted.
who I've found entertaining is Chris Matthews.
Oh yeah,
Hardball.
Yeah, he's always been entertaining.
I know, but lately I've been watching him. He's been pretty entertaining.
You know who I find entertaining? You're going to hate me for this, people. Is Glenn Beck. I mean, no, I watch him. He's full of shit, but he's a good broadcaster. I mean,
I know.
Huh?
I agree with you, but he's annoying.
I know he's annoying, but what I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying? He's a very good communicator.
Yes, he is.
That's precisely what makes him so dangerous. You know.
Yes.
You know what annoys me about that?
But I also appreciated Limbaugh for many, many years as being really a good communicator. I mean, as one broadcaster watching another broadcaster, my feeling was, hey, you know, looking at these various broadcasters, I really think that Rush Limbaugh is a good broadcaster. I didn't agree with him. He's full of shit. Maybe he's even dangerous. But he was a good broadcaster.
For a long time, I used to listen to him just to listen to him.
Just to listen to him. Yeah.
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 Yeah, he's a shit spewer, but he's a highly skilled shit spewer.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was driving a truck and I had nothing else to do, so I put it over to him to keep me awake.
He used to have a sense of humor about himself, which he doesn't have any longer, and that's when he lost me. You know. Yes, Rob.
You know, my problem with that poll that you read about news people is that Americans put Lester Holt and the network news anchors on the traditional network newscasts in the same poll with entertainers and commentators, which are not news people. That's why we have that's why there's that confusion between what news is. I was watching CNN tonight, and I was watching a little bit of Don Lemon's program, and I was thinking to myself, you know, they shouldn't be sitting on a desk set. They should be sitting on a set like The Tonight Show, with a desk, a couple of chairs, and an interview, rather than at an anchor desk where it looks like they're doing the news, because they're not doing the news.
Yeah,
give them a couch.
They usually have a round. They have a round table, and they fit everybody else around the round table.
But it looks like an anchor desk still.
Yeah,
they should separate it better.
Yeah, hold on a
second. From what it is.
My jockeys are creeping up. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Because Lester Holt doesn't belong in the same category with Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity,
or whatever,
or any of those
guys.
Absolutely right.
It's
a network news anchor. Doesn't have any personalities reading the news.
Well, that's why when they mentioned David Muir, that's fine. You know, he's over at ABC doing the evening news. And these are people you trust to read the news even during the day now. It used to be that during the day the cable networks would do newscasts. And then at night you had the commentators. And that was fine because you then had this, you know, this place where you put the shows that were infotainment. All right? But now they're all doing it. You know, Craig Melvin, every one of them throughout the whole day are all pundits
all day.
All pundits. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Jeff.
Do you read the New York Times still?
Not as much as I used to. I really don't. I get let me put it this way: I get headlines from it, and if it looks like a good article, I will then punch it up and read it. You know,
my wife reads it every day, and she's one of the few people who still.
Well, I think older people have a tendency to do that. I mean, it took me.
You're gonna get in trouble with Pam on that.
No. Wait a minute. No, hold on a second. It took me a bit of an argument to get my wife to agree, because the New York Times. Have you seen what it costs every month now?
A lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's like over $50, right? But she wanted
For what, a month?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Newspaper?
Crap, $50 a month with all the free news on the internet.
Oh, wait a minute. So I came to an accommodation with her. We subscribed to the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and for it we also get the digital, and that comes to $35 a month.
Awesome.
You know, so we cut back on our costs that way. But I mean, also because I just said, how much do you read the New York Times? She said, well, I read the digital. And I go, well, then that's all you need, you know. And if we don't have, if we can, you know, it would be $35 for just the digital, or $35 if we got the weekend and the digital. So, you know, they throw in the digital for that. So we get the digital. So but I can't tell you the last time I really looked at the digital version of the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me to spend $50 a month, they'd have to give me a digital right up my ass.
Right. A subscription to a digital porn site.
Yeah, but I mean,
happy endings for all.
The digital is, you know, but so I can't say that I really. Do you read the New York Times any longer, Jeff?
No, I can't read very well anymore.
You can't read very well anymore, or
right, because of stroke.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So reading is a problem. So I can listen to.
What do you mean? How's reading a problem? Just the comprehension?
Because of a stroke, I can read very slow. It's like I have to read each word by itself.
Wow, you know that's the if someone had asked me, do people have strokes? Can they read?
Well,
I would go, well, what does a stroke have to do? What does a stroke have to do with reading? It has to do with articulation, has to do with movement, things like that. But you know, what a printed page, words, but it does affect you, right?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's called. I mean, they call it aphasia.
Well, they have Braille. Maybe they can come up with something for people with strokes.
Well, I mean, the best thing
like somebody standing in back of you yelling the news at you.
Well, that sometimes.
Well, there are applications.
That opportunity.
Yeah.
There are applications like News Aloud, I think, and that'll actually either digitally and through a digital voice or whatnot.
I'm sure, for instance, you can watch a television newscast and understand it and deal with it. It's just wow. Yeah. I didn't realize that. Well, that's something I have to look forward to as well.
Well, hopefully you won't have to take the kind of drugs that I was taking.
Well, strokes and aneurysms are like heart attacks of the brain, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
today
you use your brain to read as much as you use your brain to vocalize and process information through other means. So it makes perfect sense.
Imagine the difference between, getting hit by a ball and you have somewhat of a damage problem because of that. It's the same kind of thing, except it was a bleeder in the brain.
They gave me this gabapentin. And I have to say that on a couple of days, I've had problems with certain cognition, and today with the Xanax in me, I was trying to remember a very simple password I have for my remote PC, and I couldn't remember it. Yeah. And I finally did, but I mean, it was something that I never even think twice about typing in. So I don't know. The trouble is, as you get older, doctors give you drugs that normally they wouldn't give to a young person, but they think, you're old, you probably don't remember things anyway. So let's give you a drug that makes you not remember things anyway. And that does not make me happy,
I try to stay against doing those things.
Yeah, I don't take anything.
I mean, I have to take all kinds of medications every day. So why add additions?
Well, it has helped my feet a bit, so I can't argue with it, but
if it's functional and it's, I'll say, mandatory for you, use it. But if it's not, maybe you can say, I think I'll wait another month.
Well, it's working good as sure as my name is You know what happens to me every now and then? Do you have this happen, Jeff? And I'm wondering if anybody else has this happen. It's you wake up and you can't remember what day it is. I used to be very good at when I woke up knowing what day it was.
Yeah. I pretty much still know the day. But there's other things that I used to know. I used to have a lot of information.
By the way, to the kids listening to the program right now, if there are any, think of us as as a prediction. No, actually, we have more people watching us right now than we're watching earlier before we got into this. But I just want to tell them that this is what you have to look forward to, kids.
This is the future.
This is the future. You know, I like to think of myself as the Sacagawea of aging. If anybody gets
the dead giveaway to remembering what day it is every time you wake up, is that it's always going to end in Y.
Oh, okay, all right. In fact, they're all going to end in DAY.
DAY, exactly.
Yeah. It's the first.
It's always a dead giveaway.
Well, let's see here. This is Wednesday. I know it's Wednesday. Why? Because
we like you.
Because I did a show last night and the night before I didn't. So today is Wednesday.
That's what your computer and phone are telling you. I
thought it because it was Prince Spaghetti Day.
Oh, well, that's... oh, boy, are you old.
How about that reference?
How about
Brian,
that?
any idea what I'm talking about there?
No clue.
Okay.
But Jeff
I think
knows.
everybody else
Jeff
on the panel knows.
You want to know something? I would say
You remember the commercials for the spaghetti company? The spaghetti... It's Wednesday. It's Prince Spaghetti Day.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that one.
Brilliant marketing strategy. Right?
Yeah. How many years later was that? That was in the 60s?
Now, was Prince local to New York, though, is what I'm wondering.
Oh, well, maybe.
Because Kevin doesn't seem to remember it.
Nope.
No.
Oh, it might have been a regional
and
pasta.
neither does Tom. How come I remember it, though? I think I remember.
It might have been around the time when you were in New York.
Yeah.
You know, they used the kids, the Italian mother was yelling down the street, Anthony! And when Anthony's mother calls, it's Wednesday.
That's
it's Prince
right.
Spaghetti Day.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's an East Coast thing there.
Must be, yeah.
Yeah. We had a lot of East Coast things. And I don't think the West Coast ever had Carvel.
No?
No.
No, I don't.
Oh, so you missed all good Tom Carvel cards.
Well, you missed what you missed was Fudgy the Whale.
Yeah. His own ocean.
Yeah, no. Here comes Tom Carvel, and he's saying, and it's this time of the year, and don't forget our favorite cake, Fudgy the Whale.
That just sounds wrong.
I know.
Yeah, not PC anymore, is it?
Yeah, Fudgy the Whale. I got your Fudgy the Whale right here.
He'd be very popular on Liberty Avenue in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and Tom Carvel, he
Castro in San Francisco.
This old guy.
Exactly.
He just got older and older, and he still kept doing the commercials.
Yeah, I could barely speak anymore.
Yeah.
Please visit your participating Carvel ice cream store. Thank you.
Yeah. And also, I don't know if you remember this. They were one of the sponsors of the Joe Franklin Show. Again, something nobody here knows except for Rob and I and Jeff. He used to be sponsored by Martin Paint.
Martin.
It ain't just paint.
Just paint. Yep. There's a Martin supermarket here, and every time I go by it, I sing Martin Home Decorating Center. It ain't just paint.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, wait a minute, it ain't just paint. They had a woman who was Miss Martin Paint every year. And this one woman who was Miss Martin Paint never could pronounce Martin. She pronounced it Martin.
It's like the commercial I see all the time for a car dealership in Newton. They won't say Newton.
Oh, you want to know the one's driving me nuts now? There's a guy with a casino that does online betting, and he says, are you ready for this? And we have our live dealers broadcasted live.
Broadcasted.
Now, I've been wanting to write this guy and say, listen, you fucking moron. There is no such word as broadcasted. It's broadcast live.
And if that guy were me with my personality, I'd fire right back and say, well, there is now, shitbird.
No, you know what the problem is? People who do that, it seeps into the English language, and then other people do it.
Language always evolves, though, Alex.
No,
we don't speak like our ancestors did in the 1800s.
No,
that's true.
This isn't an evolution. This is a de-evolution.
So says you in your subjective opinion.
It's well. Fuck me. Yes,
hey,
Tom.
so Alex.
Wait a minute. Tom has his hand up.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so get the story out quickly because we've been joined by Dubai, it looks like. But anyway, when I was a teenager in San Diego, I used to listen to the morning radio, and there was a guy, one of those car dealers who did his own commercials, and his car dealership was City Chevrolet. The problem was he had a problem pronouncing the C's and CH's, and he slurred it, and he'd say, "Now come on down to Shitty Chevrolet." And every time I heard that, I just cracked up.
Well, it makes you remember.
Yeah. Hello there, Bree. How are you?
Hello, Alex and the crew. How are you?
Yeah. Well, why don't we ever see your camera? Because you had your camera on last night for a cameo.
Right. Well, I just wake up, so I need a few minutes to compose myself.
How's the weather there today? Sunny with a chance of sandstorms?
Oh yeah, it's very nice now. We get it'll be between 70 and 80 degrees every day. We did have a little rain and wind the other day. There was a concert going on nearby, and they had to cancel it. I mean, everybody was there and everything, and they had to tell them, "Hey, go home," because there was actually lightning and wind, and but it was just for one day. And I think it's because they do cloud seeding, so they get a little bit.
Oh, by the way, for the people who live in the Bay Area, okay, we got one for you. This is courtesy of Forbin Colossus on our chat room, which still works, Brian. It says, Alex, San Franciscoism is Matthews TV, 6400 Mission Boulevard, top of the hill, Daly City.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, then the other one was Ellis Brooks Chevrolet.
Yeah, with Dinah Shore singing the Ellis Brooks
See the
Chevrolet.
World Today.
Yeah.
Ellis Brooks Chevrolet, corner of, was it Bush and Van Ness?
Bush and Van Ness, yeah, that was Automobile Row there. But anyway, no, this is Matthews at, and they didn't say Matthews TV. They said come see something.
Yeah, Matthews TV and stereo, top of the hill, Daly City.
Top of the hill, Daly City, right. And you go to the top of the hill in Daly City, which wasn't very high because there weren't many hills in Daly City.
It was that big dip they had.
Yeah, right.
We're there in Westlake.
Yes, Tom.
We got our first VCR there at Matthews, and a part of the deal is we got a subscription to Captain Video.
Oh, that's right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Friend of mine owned Captain Video.
Yeah.
What do you mean owned it?
Well, Captain Video was a store in San Francisco.
I thought you meant the TV show.
Just about the first rental place for video. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the original ones. Yeah.
They also had a store in Albany.
Later on, yeah.
I thought you were talking about the old time TV. That may have been a New York based show, the old time TV show that's referenced on The Honeymooners. A Visual Space Hominano, Captain Video. Yeah. Captain Video and the Video Rangers.
Right.
To the moon, Ellis.
Norton.
Yeah, well, that was a TV show, but out there we also had Captain Video, was the video store. And it was on, what was it? What's the street? Lombard.
Right.
And the Marina was the first store. And that was the days when they were trying to rent video. What they did was they would go out and buy the new videos, right? And then they would just stock their stores with them and then rent them to you. Well, all of a sudden, the companies got really pissy about it and said, how come you're making all this money and we're not? You know, you're buying the tapes for like $29 and you're making hundreds out of each tape, you know, before they wear out. And so they decided you couldn't have them unless it was an authorized tape from the company. And they colored them, if you remember, red.
Yeah.
They were red, and they used to sell them to people like Captain Video for like $200 a piece. Is what happened.
And if you got a hold of one, you're in trouble.
Exactly. But that didn't last very long because people just said, fuck you, we're still selling the old stuff. Yes, yes, Tom.
Well, I remember that actually the video rental market just started because they were charging so much for the tapes retail.
Right.
Like they were charging like, what, $89 or something like that to buy a videotape. And so naturally people they're going to, why go buy a tape that you're only going to watch the movie maybe once or twice? Might as well just rent it.
Do you know where I lost the most money in my life, though?
Laserdiscs.
Yeah. I would buy Laserdiscs, and they were $34 a piece.
Wow.
And they were heavy. When I finally left San Francisco, I think I sold them to somebody for next to nothing. Because it
only lasted like 6 months, didn't they? The whole Laserdisc thing was only about
no. Laserdisc lasted for quite a while. It was the best technology of that day. And then DVD came, and that came to an end because who wanted a big disc that turned itself over? You had to turn it over every hour.
Alex, you know that the video game Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair.
Right. Yeah. Remember that?
Yep.
That was run by Laserdisc.
Yes.
I hear it's one of only 3 games that's in the Smithsonian, along with Pong and Pac-Man.
Yeah, it was one of the first video games, and it was played on a Laserdisc machine in the arcade machine. And it could go to various parts of it depending on what you decided to do. It was a little on the clumsy, but they got a big animator to animate it as well. So it was a classic. I know some people.
Don Bluth.
Yeah, Don Bluth, that's exactly who did it. Yes.
American Tail, former Disney animator.
Yeah.
All that shit. Well, he also did. Didn't they also do Space Ace?
I think I don't remember. But really quite an advance there. I'm glad you remember Dragon's Lair. It was, the selling or the renting of videotapes was a big business for years. It lasted quite a long time and then DVDs came along, and the thing was, I think with DVDs is they were so cheap that you didn't mind buying them. You know that there's still a Blockbuster. The last Blockbuster is in Bend, Oregon. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
I went by it in July when I was up there.
And there was one in Alaska, and it closed down.
Yeah, they have a beer up there in one of the breweries. That's the last. They call it the last Blockbuster beer or something.
Do you know that Netflix still will mail you DVDs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They tried to close that business down, saying, "Hey, that's just not what we're doing for a living these days." And there was such a hue and cry about it. There's still people who go.
If Larry Bubbles Brown still has dial-up,
he was probably one on the road.
Yeah, well,
is it just movies that they'll rent you that way, or will they rent you the TV shows that way too?
They will rent you. You mean their TV shows?
Yeah.
No.
Is it just Netflix movies?
It's the movies.
Or is
it's the
just
movies.
movies.
It's movies. Yeah.
You got to ask Larry Bubbles Brown. Is he still getting Netflix through the mail?
I don't know if he ever got a DVD machine, for crying out loud. I'll ask him next time I talk to him. Do you have a DVD machine?
4 in the garage you can have.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have one of those?
Doesn't
he have one of those machines that he puts his eyes up to and goes like this?
He's a kinescope.
He has such an aversion to technology. I have sitting over here a iPhone 6s, which is a pretty good phone, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I told him it's yours if you just go out and get yourself signed up to something so that we can get an internet into it. Like you have to call AT&T, find out how much they're going to charge. If you want to pay that, I'll mail this to you for free. And
is it a plus?
Yeah. And
6S Plus?
A 6S Plus, yeah.
Oh,
wow.
And I said he's yet to make the call. He says, I have a friend who works over at blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, Larry, you don't want to do it, do you? Well, he says, I don't know if I know how to operate it. He's got a fucking,
he's gotten along without it.
He's got a flip phone.
That's all he needs.
And if he wants to send a text, if he wants to send a text and send the letter C, he has to hit the A button 3 times.
Yeah,
yeah, I remember that.
That's more complicated.
By the time you said, send help, you were dead. That's the wonderful world, ladies and gentlemen, of technology and how it's improved. I don't know if it's improved. They keep coming up with new stuff, but I've got one of the first iPhones here, and I imagine it still works, and probably has most of the stuff I need in it. Although I don't know if you could send texts with those at that point.
With the original iPhones, you could.
You could? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're 10 cents each.
I just ordered my Yoda Phone 3. I have to wait for it to come in from China, but I had this Yoda Phone 2, if you remember.
What's a Yoda? Wait, what's a Yoda phone? It's a good a good phone. Yoda's, it is. What?
It's a Greek word for I, Greek letter I.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Make a call, you will. Right.
This is the one that has the e-ink screen on the back.
What do you mean the e-ink screen?
It has a front LCD screen, and then on the back it has an e-reader, e-ink screen. And I do a lot of reading on my phone.
Oh,
I
see.
New York Times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Do the phones in Dubai support eSIMs?
I think they're talking about that, but I'm not sure if it's actually here or not. I do know we have drone police officers on drone motorbikes. Yeah, they fly in the air. I just saw one yesterday.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that tonight on the news. Yes, it's a drone
Blade Runner shit right there.
It's a drone motorcycle. Yeah. It floats 16 feet off the ground.
150 grand.
150 grand.
Yeah, actually, it just came on the Echo show. I just saw the. As you said that, Alex, it just popped up.
Yeah, and I think it holds a charge for about 3 minutes, and then down you go.
Down you go.
No, regardless of who's below you.
Right. No, but I mean there's that. Gosh, life. Is life getting better because of all of this?
No.
I mean,
I'm not hesitating for a minute to answer your question. No, it isn't.
I mean,
as long as the upper tier wants more of us, wants more from us, from the bottom tier,
yeah,
at the expense of our health and well-being, no, it's getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember that when you made a call outside, you had to put a quarter in the machine or a dime or whatever in the phone booth. But
during those days when you had a high school education, you were much more likely to find a job that would pay a wage, that would put a roof over your head, and food on the table for a family of 4.
Unless you were one of the kids that took shop.
Well, still.
Yeah. But...
Alex, did you see this report in Ireland of airplanes reporting mysterious lights?
No.
Yeah, UFO sightings.
You know, those things are so hard. I don't want to jump on the bandwagon right away, but I don't know how you explain those. And I listened to the audio of that.
Well, they are
wait a
minute, they are explainable. It's just that everybody wants to say, oh, to begin with, I've often felt the idea of UFOs visiting our world as almost a virtual impossibility, because if you think about the chances, considering how many stars there are in the universe, how many planets there are in the universe, that somehow we're so fucking interesting that they're heading here.
It might be more about it's a friendly planet in terms of survival to them. It may not be as random as you think.
But they may survive on a methane air. They may have an entirely different, because, we do have things on this planet. You want to find aliens. Just go down into the ocean.
Just go into the White House.
There are things down in the ocean.
You stirred up enough shit. Maybe they want to come see what we're doing.
There are things down in the ocean that would just floor you.
Yeah.
There's stuff that for instance, survives around heat vents that you couldn't even get close to. So when you talk about aliens, we've got them right here. But I always thought it was just an egotistical notion about UFOs, because it seemed to say, oh, we're so interesting that people seek us out. Other civilizations would find us interesting.
Or they want to destroy us.
Quite frankly, they would take one look at the Trump administration, turn around, get in the ship, and go home and never come back. Yes, Tom.
I think that the most interesting.
But if you had an alien anthropologist.
Wait a minute, Tom was talking.
Oh yeah, just quickly. The most interesting UFO theory I've ever heard is that they're historians from the future coming back to do research.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
And they don't want to mess up the past, so they disguise themselves as UFOs.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Dubai. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wanted to say something.
I have a poor network connection.
Oh no.
I have a poor network connection.
It sounds okay. But anyway.
Yeah. I was saying that anthropologists. Yeah. I mean, if you were an alien anthropologist, you might be interested in gathering data from this funny planet. Not that we're important. I mean, but look at how many things we study that are probably not that important, but we study it a lot.
That's true. But I mean, I just don't see why they would want to come here.
Maybe they want Tang.
Yeah.
And there.
You remember that show Alf?
Yes.
Hey, you know what, Rob? Maybe they do want Tang.
By the way,
titties and nuts galore.
Excuse me, my underpants are riding up on me.
Did you hear that, Alex?
Sitting here. What?
I said I was echoing Rob there. Maybe they do. Maybe the aliens do want Tang, titties and nuts galore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Tom.
Since we're on the subject of
man, I'm getting loopy. I'm so tired. I'm so tired from not having enough sleep last night that I'm loopy. Go ahead, Tom.
I say, since we're on the subject of science fiction, could I break into an obituary?
Oh, we got an obituary, huh? Yeah. Well, it can't be Stan Lee because he died yesterday.
Yeah, but another science fiction. Douglas Rain.
The voice of Hal.
The voice of Hal 9000.
Yeah.
Died this past weekend at, I think he was 90. 90.
Do that, Dave.
Actually,
really?
A Shakespearean company up in Canada.
Yeah, he was a Canadian actor.
A Canadian Shakespearean actor.
I can't do that, Alex.
Well, no.
That's right, Dave.
I can't do that,
Dave.
Years
Dave.
ago, when I was in New York, I wanted to do an interview with him because I just just wanted to have that voice on my air, and he wouldn't do it. He was very shy about doing anything in which he would talk about 2001.
Interesting. I wonder why.
I think he did do the voice one other time, but I'm trying to remember, and I'm almost thinking it was in a Woody Allen film. I think it might have been in Sleeper that they used his voice.
I did my homage to him in that Gabnet promo I did. I did a Gabnet promo making light of the computer HAL.
What, you remember that? Which one was that?
I just know I did it. I did, there was around the time I was doing all the game show ones. I did the Family Feud, and I did HAL 9000, and a whole bunch of promos. When I could think.
Why did I put it to sleep? Because it was promoting some show we didn't have anymore.
Probably the old website address, and so many things.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember which one that was, but then again, don't ask me to even remember my own name right now. So, boy, my underpants are just
they're riding up your ass,
and they're not tighty whities or anything like that.
This is a first world problem.
It is.
Yeah. Yes.
You're feeling a wedgie there, Alex?
FWP, but that was good, Kevin. But anyway, I found the article I was looking for.
Yeah.
We were talking about gun control and shit. The perfect gift. Company giving handguns to each employee as a Christmas bonus.
What?
I'm shit you not. According to Pittsburgh.cbs.
You know what I would probably do when they gave me the gun? I would take it and turn it on my boss and shoot him.
Sounds fair enough.
Yeah.
May happen.
Here's your fucking Christmas present. This is the gift that keeps on giving, motherfucker.
At least 15 or 17 times.
Yeah.
If you aim it right.
Or until the cops come in and kill me.
Early retirement.
Here you go.
You don't have to worry about showing up to work the next day.
That's correct. Oh, boy. Well, anyway, by the way, subpoenas are being issued for Apprentice tapes in a Trump lawsuit.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Are they really?
Yeah.
For his racist rants off air.
Who's doing that?
The subpoenas have been issued to MGM Holdings and Trump Productions, LLC, demanding unaired footage from the NBC reality show The Apprentice from Donald Trump-hosted program. The subpoenas were issued by the Lawyers for Civil Rights, which sued Trump in February, alleging that Trump's decision to end special protection shielding some immigrants from deportation was racially motivated. So I guess this is part of trying to prove that he is racially insensitive.
Wow.
And he knows Little John.
Because he has a Little John.
Former White House staffer, fellow reality star Omarosa Manigault-Newman, claimed without evidence in a book released in August, Unhinged, that the tape exists of the president using the N-word on the reality show's set. And Penn Jillette, I think, has said as well that when he was on The Apprentice, he remembers him saying racially insensitive things. And Penn is not prone to finding things particularly upsetting, but he said it made him feel very uncomfortable.
Ooh.
God, I'm glad Phil isn't here tonight.
Oh, he'd find a way to make a joke about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's amazing. That they're trying to get and I think they probably could prevail.
I guess his one saving grace is that he's Jewish. Otherwise, he'd find a way to make light of the Holocaust too. I'm talking about Phil.
Yeah,
much like Ben Shapiro.
They kept saying that NBC should give them up, but NBC is not who they're suing.
Burnett, right?
Well, it's MGM
Mark Burnett.
It's MGM Holdings Incorporated who owns the show, and Trump Productions LLC. Which who knows if that even exists anymore?
They'll probably disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what else was happening in the news today? There were some other little things happening as well.
It's like Michael Avenatti
got arrested.
Yeah.
He got
arrested for.
It looks like
of spousal abuse.
Yeah. What'd you say? Who said? Who said that? Was that you, Bree?
Yeah, Congress is looking at Facebook, thinking they need regulations.
I would. Oh well, here's the thing. I brought this up last night, and this was becoming an even bigger story today. Is the whole thing about Amazon opening up their headquarters in New York City and in Washington D.C. after they went all around the country. 200 other cities made proposals to get them to come to their town because they went and said, anybody who's interested, come on, we want to look at your proposals. And somebody pointed out they weren't going to give it to any other city except the one that the head of Amazon lived close to. You know, he has a home in New York City, so you put the headquarters in New York City. He has a home in Washington. You put the home. They didn't have any intention of giving these other cities even a chance.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, and it seems like they put it near the financial powerhouse and the political powerhouse.
But the one other thing they brought up, and this is an interesting consideration, was that each of these cities gave them an incredible amount of data about their cities to use to convince them to come to their cities. So that information is now data they can use.
Yep. And Alex, we just had a minister here who said that data is the new oil. He said moving forward, it's data that's really valuable. And those cities gave it up for free, essentially.
That's right. And this Cortez woman who just became the youngest congresswoman ever. Okay,
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Alexandra. The youngest ever. I knew she was one of the youngest. I didn't think she was the youngest.
She's the youngest. The youngest. In fact, she's
good for her.
She's the youngest woman in Congress. She's 29.
She's the one in New York or Brooklyn.
I think she's New York. I think she's the youngest person in Congress, actually. 29.
Who's expressing to us firsthand what the housing crisis is like to people her age up to and including people around my age.
Well, she just simply said, what are we giving $1.2 billion to a company that has $1.2 billion plus? They have almost $1 trillion.
We're appeasing a left-wing version of the megalomaniacal Trump.
Why are we giving money, again, to a guy, what's his name, Bezos?
Yep, Bezos.
Who has more than enough money himself that he doesn't need $1.2 billion. And we could use that money for infrastructure like improving the subways, which are in great disrepair right now. And a lot of other things that we could spend the money on that we're not going to because we're giving them a $1.2 billion tax break. And yeah, I know what Phil would say if he was here. Well, but think of all the jobs. Well, they need.
I think there's a case to be made for the tax breaks myself.
In what respect?
Well, because it's going to bring lots of commerce to the area. It's going to bring lots of people to the area. It's going to keep people working in the area.
They say, number one, they don't know where they're going to find the people. Okay.
Well, that's why New York City is the best. Here, where I live, you couldn't put it because you could barely find enough people to work at Walmart.
Yeah, but what you'd find is you would find a lot more things happening in your area that aren't happening now, like more homes being built and so on to take care of people who are going to move there to be able to work for Amazon.
But if you can't predict a workforce, you don't want to put your headquarters
here. In other words,
here.
Well, the argument was New York doesn't really need it. Okay.
But that's not how not how business operates.
In fact, the crush that it's going to put on Long Island City is maybe more than it can take.
What's it called? Long Island City?
Yeah.
Used to be a big factory facility, and that property is billions, and it's not being used. And this would be a great opportunity.
It's being used. For instance, I think Silver Cup Studios is out there.
Yeah. And there's a lot of. It's become very chic to live there.
Right. So anyway, yes, Brian.
Practically, and politically speaking, in a short-term sense, I agree with Rob in that if it's not New York, there were plenty of other people, plenty of other cities, municipalities, and states that are willing to give those tax breaks.
But you don't understand. The point was they weren't going to give them those tax breaks. They weren't going to go to those other cities. They were going to come to New York, come hell or high
Amazon
water.
had an agenda,
and so we're paying them $1.2 billion to do something they were going to do anyway.
Well, you're not really paying them anything. You're just not going to tax them.
Yeah, Pennsylvania was going to tax break them $4.6, I think, billion in total, just to use as an example. It's a race to the bottom.
I know Texas is another one that, they have a ton of big companies in Dallas.
I'm sure. Long-term wise, idealistically speaking, to me, this is an aspect of fascism.
It is?
Why?
Why? Let me explain myself. I say this is an aspect of fascism because we have private mega ass corporations like Walmart and Amazon dictating the terms and conditions upon which public policy is dispensed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's an aspect of fascism. Therefore, I'm right that it is an aspect of fascism.
Yeah, it is an aspect of fascism. But the point is that if any company doesn't need $1.2 billion in tax incentives, it's Amazon. I mean, when you've got a guy, Jeff Bezos, who is, I believe, the most wealthy man in the world.
I believe you're right.
You're 100% right.
You're giving him $1.2 billion in tax breaks. Come on,
Yeah, but the one thing you're missing is if New York didn't do it, it was going to be the only other way you'd be able to do that is collusion. If all the states got together and said, none of us are doing tax breaks anymore.
My argument is New York was going to get it anyway because the argument was made. The argument was made that Bezos was going to pick two cities where he has homes, and he did, and he did. Yes, Jeff, quickly.
I'm not sure how long this benefit is going to go because this company may change substantially in the next 5 years. Because a lot of products that we think about going to Amazon right now, you can go directly to, if you're buying shoes, you can go right to the shoe menu.
Well, no, but more than that, it's only a matter of time before Amazon is split up through antitrust. In fact, other companies have been broken up for being far less pervasive than Amazon.
And give Trump another term in the White House. He's got it out for Bezos.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry that I actually like Bezos over Trump because I don't like either of the motherfuckers.
Marginally better.
Yeah, marginally better.
See your logic.
Well, it's like, what would you rather have, cancer or leukemia? Come on. Anyway, hey, listen, there's our theme just playing in the background.
Shot in the ass or shot in the balls.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Really appreciate it again tonight.
Thanks a lot, Alex.
You as well, Brian. Always good having you here. Wait a minute, Bree, you didn't let me say goodbye. You hung up before we said goodbye. Yes, Kevin.
Said a goodbye to you, though.
Thank you, Tom. Always love having you here. You know that. Same thing with you, Rob. And a big thank you to Vernon, who didn't say much because we can't see him tonight, but maybe next time. Anyway, hey, why don't all of you give a big wave goodbye so everybody can see what it looks like when you wave goodbye? See them waving goodbye? I will wave back, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. And they're out of here. They're through waving because I just hung up on them. And listen, I'm out of here. But next, over most of this same Gabnet, is The Intersection with Jack Bishop. And then at 1 o'clock this morning Eastern Time, it is Connections. Tomorrow night, 9:30, The Exchange with Damian Chaplin. And I'll be back. Same time, same station in life. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And until then, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? All right. Bye-bye.